All right, Minnesota Vikings at the Seattle Seahawks Sunday at 4:05. Vikings coming off of that impressive Monday night win against Chicago. They're 12-2. Seahawks are 8-6. Big question here is going to be Geno Smith's health. We saw the Seahawks struggle against the Packers on Sunday Night Football. Plus, Geno Smith got hurt. Vikings favored by 3 here on the road.
Yeah, the Geno Smith thing is huge. I mean, that completely changes this game. It's a definite, without Geno Smith in the lineup. I don't think that
He
this
did.
off.
He did play. I mean, he did practice.
Right. And
Yesterday, so.
it felt like an injury that wasn't going to keep him out long term. But I think that's if he doesn't play, the Seahawks are screwed. Like that offense is non-functional with Sam Howell in the lineup. Not necessarily because Sam Howell is individually non-functional, though he certainly has the capacity to be that in any given week. But because that interior of the offensive line is such a mess, going up against a Flores defense, Howell can't. He can't A, offset that, and B, probably plays into it being worse the way he plays the game. So if they don't have Geno, they are absolutely toast. With Geno, it's still a massive challenge because you're still going up against that Flores defense. You're still being shown all the exotic looks, the various different things, and the interior of the offensive line is still extremely bad. So, Geno has a better chance of offsetting that, but it's still a massive hill to climb.
Yeah, their pass protection hasn't been good. Quick aside on Sam Howell. I think we're in this world. I think we'll spend a lot of time this offseason talking about who's the next second chance quarterback, who's the next Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, who's the next guy to take a shot on. Names like Zach Wilson will come up. Someone just tweeted us about Jake Browning maybe coming up, which, if you remember how good Jake Browning was last year, I think he might come up. Sam Howell's the interesting one to me. And I'm thinking this and then watching him on Sunday night, and it's like, oh man, am I overrating Sam Howell? Because there was a lot of good to his game, just took so many negative plays, so many sacks. And the other day, you saw that it's tough to function behind this offensive line. And my point is, I think it highlights, how well Geno Smith has played this year to keep the offense on schedule, the inconsistency of the run game. Geno Smith's played, pretty good football behind that offensive line. But yeah, that matchup with Flores and this Vikings defense, not in Seattle's favor this week.
I mean, some teams are going to have to get creative at the quarterback position because I think there might only be 2 quarterbacks in this draft that anybody is comfortable with, right? And they're going to go in the top 5 picks, you would assume, based off need. So anyone that's outside of that bubble and doesn't have their QB is going to have to do some weird things, whether it's Sam Darnold, whether it's the reclamation of Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers, the old Achilles quarterbacks. Or whether it's a second chance for some rando, Browning, Sam Howell, Jameis. Maybe somebody's like, we're desperate enough that Jameis gets the start again. Who the hell knows? But somebody's going to have to get creative when they're on the outside looking in for a QB. I think you're right, though. Like this, Geno has done an incredible job with this group of playmakers. The playmakers are great. The tackles are pretty good. The interior is such a mess, though. Like, it's such a problem. And you only really get an appreciation for that as soon as you take him out of the lineup and you see what it looks like with Sam Howell back there, who, again, I don't want to act like Sam Howell is individually utter and total garbage. Like, Sam Howell had 30 big-time throws the year that he was the starter. That's a pretty high number. And yet you put him back there and it just doesn't, the offense can't work. So Geno, there's a ton of credit. And really, Geno would be one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL right now if you simply remove red zone decision making, which appears to be some kind of inbuilt, glitch in his matrix. But outside of that,
third straight year, basically. Yeah.
Like that it's very unusual for a guy to struggle in a very specific aspect of the game in terms of field position. But red zone Geno, not very good at all. Every other part of Geno, legitimately a top 10, top 5 quarterback.
Yeah. One of the interesting numbers I pulled up, he's got a 57 passer rating under pressure. Not very good, even relative to the rest of the league, but his PFF grade's solid. It's top 10, top 11-ish.
Right.
I just don't think Seattle, I think the pressure's coming too quickly.
Yeah.
They're not handling one-on-one pressure. They're not handling blitz pressure. Again, the matchup with Flores isn't great. They need to have better blitz answers. I think that's where JSN comes in. You got to get rid of the ball quickly. You got to get it to somebody where where they're going to be. JSN's really become that guy, Jackson Smith and Jigba for the Seahawks. So I expect a big game from him. The Vikings usually give up their passing yards, as we highlight every week. They'll give it up but generally make you one-dimensional, stop the run, and create negative plays. Right. So Geno's, look, when we're always take care of the ball in the red zone, win the turnover battle. But, times 100 in this game, Geno Smith can't make those red zone mistakes, made it against Green Bay the other day, and you just don't have that margin for error.
It's interesting, again, because Minnesota's cornerbacks in particular are really banged up. Like, Gilmore's down with a hamstring. Guy's not the youngest. He's not a spring chicken anymore. I imagine a hamstring injury for him might linger a little bit longer than it does for other corners. Fabian Moreau, who's been the first corner off the bench, is dealing with a hip injury as well. Like, their corners are pretty banged up, and it wasn't a great group to begin with. So on the one hand, you've got Seattle's wide receivers against Minnesota's DBs is actually a pretty healthy matchup in their favor, but interior of the offensive line is a mess. The Vikings front is really good in terms of how they can scheme up pressure. So it's like there might be enough going in their favor that they can completely hide that matchup, where if they weren't, it would be a really big matchup in Seattle's favor, but it might overall actually tilt towards the Vikings unless Geno is able to play out of his mind and just get the ball to those guys anyway.
Yeah, and they're capable every week, right? They're capable of putting those big plays up on the board. And I would say the matchup on the other side is awesome as well. We've highlighted Minnesota's pass catchers. I've called them the best in the league with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. We get to see Jefferson and Addison against Woolen, against Devon Witherspoon. So some awesome matchups on that side of the ball. Mike McDonald's defense, which has been better against the run overall in recent weeks, but Aaron Jones runs the ball pretty well. It is a good mix of what Minnesota can do offensively against a pretty solid Seattle defense. So I do like that matchup just from a viewer perspective.
Yeah, I mean, in particular, I think the wide receivers versus the corners on that side of the ball is just a great box office matchup, right? Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, probably are they the best 1-2? I mean, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase has got to be in that conversation as well, but they're up there, right? They're one of the best 1-2s in the NFL, going up against the Seattle corners of, Woolen, Devon Witherspoon. They've got horses as well. That's a really fun side of the ball.
All right, man, we've got Minnesota favored by 3 in Seattle. Over-under is just 43.5 per our friends over at FanDuel. Where are you going to go with this one?
So I'm taking Minnesota if for some reason Geno doesn't play, but assuming Geno's playing, I'll take the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Seahawks to cover. Assuming Geno. I don't know what would happen with Sam Howell against Flores' defense. Could get ugly. Harry's going to take Minnesota, so I am disagreeing with Harry, my son, on the first 3 games.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.